This video is part of the IELTS Express series, the two-level series from Thompson ELT. It accompanies the upper intermediate level. A second video accompanies the intermediate level. We're here today to talk about the speaking module of the IELTS exam and which skills and techniques students need to develop to be successful. We asked an experienced IELTS examiner and teacher, Ranald Barnicott of Barnet College in North London, first to examine 8 candidates at different levels from different nationalities, then to analyse their performances in each part of the speaking module, and finally to assemble a range of extracts to illustrate these skills and techniques. Tell me about the IELTS speaking module.
Well, it consists of 3 parts, which place rather different demands on the candidates, and it's always a one-to-one interview. However, there are general criteria which apply to all 3 parts. There's fluency and coherence to start with. This involves the ability to speak without too much hesitation or pausing to correct one's own mistakes. I mean, it's good to do that, but too much gets in the way of communication. And you should also speak at a proper speed so that you don't put a strain on the examiner by speaking too slowly or too fast.
Could you explain coherence a little more?
Basically, it means connecting your ideas in a structured way so that the listener can understand what you're trying to say. And this way, you can also avoid repeating yourself. And
what about grammar? I imagine that's pretty important.
Yes, very much. Candidate structures should be reasonably correct, and they should show that they can use a lot of different grammatical structures, some fairly complex, and not just the basic ones. We call these 2 factors accuracy and range. And, of course, the same things apply to vocabulary.
How about pronunciation? I imagine it's not very satisfactory having brilliant vocabulary if nobody can understand what you're saying.
Absolutely not. And not only do candidates have to get individual sounds right, like distinguishing T and TH, T and Th, for example, they also have to stress the right word in a sentence and use an appropriate intonation. Examiners want to see evidence that candidates can use appropriate intonation, for example, whether they're asking a question or making a statement, and also expressing their feelings.
So if the intonation is rather flat, it can express lack of interest.
In part 1, the candidate has to answer a number of questions about themselves, their hopes for their future, their education, or their jobs, any hobbies they may have, or sometimes customs and lifestyles in their countries.
And what should candidates focus on when answering these questions?
A major element is extended responses. That is, not just giving one-word answers or answering with just a simple phrase or sentence. Let's show Danilo from Italy as a good example of this.
Hello, my name is Ranald Barnicott. Can you tell me your full name, please?
My name is Danilo Guerini.
And what shall I call you?
Oh, Danilo, Danny.
Okay, Danny. Where do you come from?
I come from Italy, from the south of Italy.
Thank you. All right, so what I'm going to do first is ask you some questions about yourself, and I'm going to start with your studies. What are you studying?
At the moment I'm doing a foundation year at Barnet College, because I would like to go to university hopefully next year. And I'm studying a course of IELTS, an IT course and a general English course.
What do you hope to study at university?
I would like to study European studies, which involves politics, international relations, and politics and international relations. Yeah.
Yes, I see what you mean. He didn't give much information about himself or his part of Italy to start with, but he does go on to describe his studies and what he wants to do in some detail, and I'm quite impressed by his vocabulary.
Yes, involves, for example, is quite a formal word, but it's very useful in an academic context or talking about one's studies, as Danilo is. I have to say, however, that he becomes a bit less fluent at the end.
He hesitates a little too much, doesn't he?
Daniel is another good example. Notice also the way he becomes more involved in the conversation by smiling.
Let's talk about music. Do you play a musical instrument?
No, never.
What is your favourite kind of music?
It could be folk or country. I love that. So in my country it's very popular folk music.
Yes, but I'm reminded about what you said about intonation. It is a bit flat in Daniel's case, isn't it?
Candidates should have a rising and falling intonation. It makes them sound interested and engaged in the conversation. Very flat intonation can make the candidate seem bored and uninterested and can have a negative effect on the listener.
Is there anything else you can suggest?
Fillers. It is important that candidates use these to fill the gaps in conversation. They also buy them time to think. Phrases like anyway or you know, actually, etc. Here are some common ones. First of all, boya.
I want to choose because I like to be a producer in the future and to do some programs for people.
What do you find most interesting about your subject?
I think is produce programs, the process when I do it, and I think I can find some interesting things in it.
Boya uses I think. Now, watch these clips of Panil.
What are you studying?
Well, right now I'm studying English. It's an English foundation course. It's a one-year course. Yeah.
Why did you decide to study that subject?
Well, I want to become an actress and I want to study here in London. So I want to perfect my English and I thought this would be a good course. And also I get practice in taking the IELTS, which will show what level my English is at.
What kinds of music are most popular where you live in Norway?
Probably American and English pop music. Yeah.
Well, in the first one, she uses well a lot, and in the second, she uses yeah.
The yeah is interesting. She's using it to show that she's finished speaking.